we, we want to extend our heartfelt tribute to the Republic of Uganda on this historic occasion of their independence anniversary. Today marks a proud moment of reflection on the country's journey of resilience, unity, and growth. And as a nation, Uganda's rich cultural heritage, its strides in economic development, and its vibrant contribution to African continent are inspiring. As the country celebrates this day, AJERAP wish the country to continue to prosper in peace, innovation, and progress. As the country continues to stand tall amongst the pillar of Africa. So on behalf of us, we want to say Happy Independence Day celebration to our colleagues from Uganda. That's a tribute from us to the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amatola, for that wonderful tribute to our sister country, Uganda. As they mark their National Day today, in the Pan-African spirit that AJERAP represents.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, welcome, sir. Our guest is here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am indeed and profusely very sorry. Today we're having the 100th anniversary of BP, and I have to have some engagements with them early on this morning, which extended, but I still have to go this afternoon. So we kind of had a scheduling conflict, but I am deeply sorry and I apologize for starting this very late. And I hope you understand.
Definitely, we know we are really honored that you've spared time off your busy schedule to join us here. Welcome to our one-on-one engagement. Like AJERAP, it's a collective of Pan-African membership of African journalists in the energy sector of Africa. I am your co-host, Mr. Sana Kamara, speaking from Banjul, and my other colleague is Alan Antoine from Uganda. So we're going to be your host today, and we have diverse membership from across Africa: Tanzania, Uganda, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria. You'll find us all here. So we are honored to have you, sir. We would like to do a brief 1-minute introduction on our end, and when you come in, you can also expand on that. We find it proper as part of our African protocols and courtesies to welcome our guest formally and speak a little bit about you.
Thank you, sir.
NJ Ayuk is not like a small name, I would say, in African energy sector. He is the leading authority in African energy sector and a strong advocate of African entrepreneurship and development. He is recognized as the foremost figure in African business, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber, an organization at the forefront of African energy industry, championing industry development, investments, and local economic improvement through the elimination of continent-wide energy poverty. He is also renowned dealmaker, the founder of the Pan-African Full Suite Law Conglomerate, CFG, formerly called Centurion Law Group. His accolades, like I said earlier, academic accolades are quite prestigious, and he's gone to the one of the best of the leading universities across the world, from the UK to the US and then Nigeria. Also a member of professional organizations that are still prestigious. He is a inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, and a role model for a lot of businesses, both in the energy sector, but also outside of that. So we would like to welcome him formally. And our guest, Honorable Ayuk, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor.
So before we just go fire into the first question, please tell us a little bit more about your work with the African Chamber. Of course, some of the questions we'll be touching on that, but we would like to know more about your work with the African Chamber.
Thank you very much. It is, first of all, it's an honor to sit with and have a discussion with a team of, I call them African truth seekers and freedom fighters, as because I think the work you guys do is mostly underreported and unrepresented, but you guys are the true voice of our continent, speaking truth to power, sometimes when it's not convenient, both for government or business or civil society. And sometimes it's really important that we do give credit to the work of media, journalists in our work. But I also say the work of the media and journalists has been at the bedrock of us being able to raise up issues around energy poverty, climate justice, and the Africa that we want. And I want to encourage you to continue really driving that and not stop. The African Energy Chamber was created to advocate for African business. We were at a time when African business were not really considered in the energy sector. For the most part, you had international companies come to Africa and get all the contracts, get the best jobs, and Africans had to sit on the sidelines. We said we need to change that. And it's not just about protesting, but finding ways to lobby, work, and also encourage governments to have policies that will really create space for a lot of Africans in the energy sector. I, for one, felt to by any part of my fiber that if we don't get African, especially women, in the energy sector, then we're missing on the future. Women are still the last hired and the first fired on our energy sector. And that is wrong. We need to be able to really drive up those issues and be there. But also, we need to create a conducive environment. That's what the Chambers did. Like, how do we create an enabling environment for women to get hired, for people to do business, for young people to come into the energy space? And sometimes we have to look at some of the taboos in Africa that we've not dealt with, we don't deal with. Sexual harassment at the workplace. A young girl going to a workplace and getting all kind of slight comments being made by mostly male-dominated workplace society. We got to deal with that. It's not comfortable, but we got to touch on those issues. But also also have to look at how um, we really address our energy industry and what it does to our young people, how you bring them in, but also hold them accountable, personal responsibility, and drive those real big things. But when it comes to energy, we also do need to start finding ways and look at what we do at the chamber with the Africa Continental Free Trade Act. Well, you know what? It's easy to trade with Europe, trade with America, than it is to trade with ourselves. And why we decided, Chamber, to take on this issue head on is because if we cannot get gas from Mozambique to South Africa or to Guinea or to Uganda, then we're not building that Africa we deserve or that Africa we want. But then you have to start dealing with issues around xenophobia. We hate each other, and that's wrong in Africa. You can't get a visa to travel from one African country to from east to west without a visa, but if somebody can come from Europe or America and fly over Africa for free. You can't talk about shipping gas and shipping energy across Africa, but you don't think that the people need to go and meet those things. And I'm really proud of the really beautiful team we have at the chamber. Very young people. I think most of you have engaged with Grady and everything. Une vraie femme congolais. And so we get people like that have been drivers, have been believers, and it is young people driving an African-led energy movement that is about this continent. And I am so proud to be part of it.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that also answers our first question, which was more basically about why African Chamber is passionate about the African Energy Week. Um, I don't know if you'd like to just touch on that a bit, or otherwise we go to the
I would
second
touch on that.
question.
We are not a conference organization. We don't, our job is not to do conferences. Our job is to advocate for issues. African Energy Week was a platform for us to be able to put Africa's issues on the front burner, to urge government to be able to drive up issues. It's not acceptable that in 2024, we would have 600 million Africans without electricity, 900 million without clean cooking technologies, most of them women. This has to change. And African Energy Week is a perfect platform for us to do that. It came on the backdrop where a London-based organization, all white, no blacks, no Africans in their leadership, was organizing Africa All Week. And then they decided that they're going to go to Dubai because they felt Africa was no longer convenient. It's like hosting the African Nations Cup football in Dubai. They're going to sit in Dubai, discuss about Africa without Africans in their room. This is 1883 in Berlin all over. So the African Unity Chamber, we decided we were very, I think we're a little bit naive. We didn't really know what we were doing. We decided that, no, we're going to take this head on. It's going to stay in Africa. And thanks to most of you, we walked across Africa to unite Africa, to create African Energy Week and keep it here in Africa. And we and that platform, that message continued to build. We encourage Africans to be part of this because it is not right that international companies come to this continent, use Africa, and then the minute we're in crisis, bye-bye, we're out of here. No, we have to be the drivers of our future. And you know what? We welcome international companies. We welcome all investors, but love and respect must be shown to Africans.
Excellent. That's quite a noble ambition, and it's quite a noble objective. We are also I'm sure you've already been briefed. We have also been touched by similar objectives or similar noble and lofty ambitions for our continent. Hence, forming this collective as AJERAP, coming together to play our part as journalists, because we feel that the continent stories are mostly told by those outside of the continent, who lack the background, the context, and the realities that we are faced with on a daily basis. That's one of the reasons why we've come together to form AJERAP. So we are happy that you recognize that role and you collaborating with us. So thank you very much, sir, for that. I would like to go to question 3. We are skipping question 2 because that's already been touched on. Can you comment on your efforts to build capacity across Africa, like Africa oil and gas industry, while enhancing local content development?
Before that, I just want to really emphasize to you about the spirit of telling us stories. If you don't tell your story, someone else is going to tell your story, and they're not going to tell it the way you want. And that's why I'm so proud of what you guys do in really being able to drive up that message and tell African stories. I'm a writer, so I love anybody that writes. I always believe that you guys at AJERAP, you are, I don't know how to put it, you are what I call, as what Mother Teresa would describe, a pencil in the hand of God writing Africa's story. That's what you guys do. When it comes to the question around capacity building, one of the key things we've done in the African Energy Chamber is work with energy companies, oil companies, and really get Africans jobs, opportunities within those companies, whether it is training and everything. And this is a special place in my heart, young people. How do we really get young people to train and be the drivers of the future? Because you could talk about all that integration you want, but I think integration without preparation is frustration. So we need to really drive that. And we've been able to build those partnerships. We've been able to take Namibians, for example, new country with oil discoveries. We were able to take them into Equatorial Guinea for training. We were able to send some Namibians into Congo, and we're working on sending them into Senegal, into Angola, where you have legacy producers that can be brought in and really build that. But we will not also stop there. We recognize where sometimes our governments have shortages. What we've done is that we've looked at governments and we say, how do we work with you to build your policies to make sure that your policies are up to date, so that you can move on things and you can really do the right things to support our people. So sometimes we've trained government officials, we've educated them on best practices in the industry, and to ensure that we work on issues around transparency and mismanagement and corruption. It's not saying that these issues happen daily, but sometimes you need to remind people. It's like once in a while you need to tell your wife, "I love you." It's so important to that you recommit this and on these principles of transparency. But basically, looking at our civil societies sometimes and working together with industry is we continue to build around enabling, helping them work together to create an enabling environment. So a lot of training, development, part of our budget goes around the big issue. We had a big international organization come to South Africa, and we brought Africans from all over, and we trained them on gas to power. How do we build gas to power? Because that's the real part of dealing with energy poverty, and we continue doing that. And I think that is a key. That should be a key part of whatever organization that wants to build that. And I'm proud that the board of the chamber allows me to be able to drive these capacity building programs, especially for young people.
Okay, sir, that's quite interesting. Can you kindly talk about your investment outreach to key regions such as Asia, Russia, the Middle East, and North America, and the benefit that this is bringing to your stakeholders?
But one of the things we do is that the chamber doesn't have money like that, so we don't really invest big. One of the key things that we do is we try to attract investment into Africa, into African companies, and into African countries. That's very important, because sometimes we always say the private sector has a role to play in championing Africa. Private sector cannot just be a sector that says, you know what, government or business, give me a contract or give me an opportunity, let me make money. No, you guys have to be those big champions of the continent, going out there, talking up Africa, attracting people to Africa better than our governments or our politicians we do. But I also believe that one of the key things we've done was we looked at Russia. We saw opportunities in Russia. We saw how they were able to go from a country that was importing most of its food to producing a lot of its food through fertilizers, because they use gas to produce fertilizers, and they use fertilizers to really build a strong agricultural sector. And we said, how can Africans be able to replicate that and do something even better? Second part of it also is that we look at the UAE and look at some of the best practices they've done in creating that environment, but also talk to businesses there and promote and push them to invest in Africa. We've worked with other BRICS nations. I was in China about 3 or 4 weeks ago before FOCAC, basically met with a lot of Chinese businesses and pushed them. And right now they're signing deals. At the African Energy Week over the last 2 years, we've signed a combined $26 billion of investment deals going into the African energy sector, which we've been able to push and facilitate and get companies to do that. And I think we need to continue doing that, because whenever we attract investment into an African country, that means a lot. We were able to still drive up investments and find financiers to put money in the East African crude oil pipeline in Uganda that people have been unfairly critical of. But, I think it means a lot for Uganda. It means a lot for the citizens in that country. And we need to drive those projects and really ensure that it happens. And we're doing the same where we're lobbying the US Exim Bank to put in a lot of money into Mozambique, because if Mozambique gets that funding, then it will be able to do a lot of gas development that could take Mozambique from zero to the third largest gas producer that would commit gas into Africa and also deal with global energy security needs. So it's really important to continue that work. It's not the most glamorous work. Most people don't see, but it is tedious and you have to do that daily.
Looking back at the past, is it accurate to say that AEC has been able to market Africa, its markets and investment opportunities to the global community for investment?
You know, I don't want to really reflect on that to say AEC has been able. I think I'll let history decide and I'll let the work decide for itself. I don't really think that we should get into this with all honesty and say what accolades we've done. I think that's for others to decide. But I also think that um, it's like what Dr. King says, the arc of a moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Each one of us have a place in our continent to do something positive and let other people decide. I, for one, don't think it is right to get out there and say, I did this, I did this. It's a collective group. It's that is doing this work day by day, a lot of young people. I think the AEC just happens to be a vehicle to really take um, issues, opportunities from the soul and heart of Africa and out there in the world. And I would let others decide or whether we've been positive in marketing Africa or we've been negative or what has happened. But I know that when I get up every morning, I breathe and think this continent. This is the continent where my fathers died. This is the continent where I am going to die. And this is the continent where I have every right to do whatever I can to improve it, to do my own part, and to really be able to shape things. And I reflect on this in also another different way. You, I'm 44 years old. You realize we had a continent where we had Kwame Nkrumah, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure, Patrice Lumumba, and all that generation. They were in their 20s and 30s when they liberated this continent from colonialism. They didn't have no cell phones. They didn't have no email. They didn't have WeChat or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, but they found a way to defeat the evil of colonialism and start an African renaissance that really liberated this continent. Here we are today with emails, cell phones, Facebook, TikTok, and everything. We can't even get ourselves together to combat things like energy poverty and and other things that are going ill in the continent. It is also a chance that we need to be able to look at the mirror and really ask ourselves what we are doing for this continent and energy for 600 million that don't have it. My friends, mirrors are just not to reflect what you see. Mirrors are to correct what you see. So I urge every one of us, it doesn't matter if we're journalists or energy people or wherever we are, let's look at mirrors and not just be mirrored images.
So, what is the current investment spots or projects you would like global finances and investors to stick their resources at
You're
the
trying to
time?
get me in trouble. If I don't mention somebody's country, they're gonna write something bad about me. Oh Lord.
Yeah, you can be assured that our small Gambia will be the first. Eh?
you know, the Gambia. I was actually lucky to be there 2 years ago. When I was there, I had a great tragedy. My friend, my mentor, Mohammed Sanusi Bakindo, passed away the day I arrived in Gambia. So I remember the Gambia so well. So much opportunities in green hydrogen, so much opportunities in oil. I constantly engage with your ministry and national oil companies on seeing ways to promote and attract investment in the Gambia. BP, whom I am going to spend the day today with, was in the Gambia, had even drilled. I know you got issues there with Petronor trying to come in, but shifting out east, I still think Uganda and Tanzania are have some of the most prolific opportunities that anybody can dream of. The East Africa crude oil pipeline is going to really pave the way for a lot of exploration opportunities in energy. Look at Tanzania, a country that's going big population. It's going to really be a big hub for petroleum products and everything that we need daily. Go down to Mozambique around Garubuma Basin. Mozambique is just something inspirational, but they need to deal with the security issues right there. And I shouldn't stop without mentioning those really really big brothers that like to bam bam and chill with the big boys in Nigeria. Nigeria, if they think about this, Nigeria is more of a gas country than an oil country. If you capture the gas that's being flared in Nigeria, you can power half of Africa every day without anything. So those are already big opportunities. Namibia, I mean, for young Africans today, you need to look at Namibia, jobs, opportunities, small business you can do, whether from logistics to rig work or getting stuff done around construction, infrastructure development. So much it's going to see about 30 to 50 billion dollars going that country over the next 7 to 8 years. It's going to be Africa's, or if not the world's fastest growing economy when things kick off in about 18 months. I bet also Namibia is just seeing few of investments coming in. We've seen Senegal, that beautiful country with the Tarenga field in mid-history, becoming the first, getting first oil with Woodside, which was a $5 to $7 billion investment that they put in there. But there are, when you talk about opportunities around Africa, everywhere you look in Africa, every African country has a slew of investment opportunities that is looking for money to just come in and for it to take off. But also, we Africans have to do the work to create an enabling environment that attracts global capital to come play a role in unleashing or unlocking this opportunity so that our people can benefit and we can create jobs and opportunities and bring women into the play as we drive this. So this is not, we should not get in the game of picking winners and losers. We are so blessed as a continent with every country having amazing opportunities. We just have to unleash our potential and be attractive for not just global investment, but also African investment. I mean, the biggest refinery in the world has been done by an African, Dangote in Nigeria. Why can't we replicate that across Africa?
Well, that's quite a success story, and I think the entire continent is putting their eyes on Nigeria and seeing how that is unfolding, and it's going to be quite inspiring for a lot of other African entrepreneurs like him. Of course, there is no one like Dangote, but those who are closer to him in terms of wealth and resources can be able to duplicate this kind of investments in Africa to ensure energy sovereignty and reduce energy poverty. I'd like to go to the next question, sir. How do the quest for energy transition and the politics that go with it affect oil and gas investment in Africa?
It is affecting oil and gas a lot across the continent because there is a growing global climate that says oil and gas is bad. We shouldn't produce oil and gas anymore in Africa. But at the same time, we have to look at the geopolitics around it. Africa contributes less than 3% greenhouse gas emissions. We are victims of the climate crisis. We have been punished for a crisis that we did not create. If Africa produced all its natural gas today, our greenhouse gas emission gets up by 0.68%. That's nothing. The wealthy nations, Europe is like 17, China is already at 20, the US is at more. So those that are calling us with their geopolitics, Ukraine, Russia fighting and everything, and they're asking us to pick sides. I always say, we don't get involved in global geopolitics. When two elephants are fighting, as the Africans will say, it is the grass that suffers. So we try to take a very independent approach to this as a chamber, and we've maintained that. And people sometimes will question us, why are you in America today, or why are you in Russia today? I go with what I think one of my heroes, Nelson Mandela, would say: your enemies doesn't have to be my enemy. And that's the position we've taken. But also I believe that those that are calling us to not produce oil and natural gas in Africa, don't produce gas in Mozambique, or don't produce oil in Uganda. I put it this way: Uganda's production, what they're going to be producing in Kingfisher or Talenga, combined would be 220 or 230,000 barrels of oil a day. When Uganda does that, that would be 1.8% of the US oil and gas production. The US at 13 million barrels, the largest producer in the world. Saudi is at 4.5 million barrels. So you really want to tell me 1.8% of US production is going to be the end of the earth? Norway, a country of 5 million, is producing 4 million barrels of oil. So I believe that there needs to be some equity in this. There needs to be some justice in this. It can't be that stop Africa from growing. People that are wealthy have lights every day. You are telling poor people to not have lights, they should stay poor. I think there's something fundamentally flawed in that thinking, with that kind of geopolitical climate that they're trying to drive up here. Do you know a refrigerator in the United States and in the United Kingdom uses more electricity than one African family uses in a year? Heathrow Airport in London uses more electricity than the entire country of Sierra Leone. And you think that that's normal? That's acceptable in this day and age? And we have resources, we can use it to power and our people and ensure that young girls and young boys can get an education. Because if you don't have lights, you can't read. So we need to look at these issues from an African reality. I'm an African. I understand, I don't discount the problem somebody in Norway or anybody in London has. But when they get up in the morning, the day they're hungry, they get food from their government.
The next one would be, what other major issues and challenges exist, and what should stakeholders do to overcome them?
Number one, we have to speak with one voice. We have a challenge today globally. I'm going to be at a COP in Baku, Azerbaijan. They're going to tell us that Africa needs to abandon its oil and gas and coal resources. They are going to give us aid. They would help us. And they will give you money for solar and wind. What we need to develop in this continent is what I call baseload energy. And baseload energy, you only get it today from gas and coal. Renewables are nice, but they still have to deal with the technologies. There's still a lot of intermittent issues around there. We need to be on the table. I have urged African leaders from north to south, east to west, do not ignore dealing with these global issues and speaking for this generation. I meet with presidents all the time, meet ministers. If you're not on the table, you are going to be on the menu. And that's just the way this works. So when we look at the global climate today, we are saying Africa needs to use what it has to develop itself. I'm not a pessimist. I don't believe anybody's going to develop this continent if we don't do it ourselves. The They promised us at Kyoto a lot of money for us to sign on all these climate agreements. They said you sign, you're gonna get some money. They haven't paid $100 billion a year to Africa. They haven't paid. So we need to ask ourselves, why are you going to continue believing people that make promises have not and don't pay? And the truth of the matter is that why are we as a continent waiting for others for handouts for us to grow when we have everything that we can grow? So I think the restraints around finances has been a big one. You know, Europe, when they had problems, they said, okay, gas is green energy, and they funded it, but they funded it for themselves and they wouldn't fund it for Africa. Gas is not green energy for Africa. Look at the disparity. So I think we need to take on these issues head on, and we need to come up with solutions and start to really believe in ourselves that we are going to find these solutions ourselves. I don't know if you watch movies, but Superman is not coming. Batman is not coming. Wakanda Forever is a good movie, but the Black Panther is not coming. It's you and I that would have to rally African finances, push governments to create an enabling environment, push business to do its part, and not just go for profit. And the next day, a brother gets a contract. First thing is that he's on an airplane to Dubai or he's going to London to enjoy himself. No, hold business accountable, that we really become drivers of the future to really better this continent.
You're either gonna be on the table or you become the menu. I am only praying that this generation is continuing the momentum that is going on already, learning from the errors that or the mistakes that our ancestors made, dealing with global development partners that has set us backwards for decades, and then putting forward the solutions that our people need to make us as human as anybody else in the world. We are not less human. So I really like that adage, and I really like that thinking. We go to the next question, sir. As a movement, I call it movement in quote because the cause that you guys are standing for, it's really a movement. What stands out um, in the Africa Energy Week from other
Well,
events?
I think what stands out in African Week is that it's African. It is an African-driven narrative. When we started, we went from 30 people to today, the chamber having 4 million people. Of course, we are a movement. And I think Africans being able to drive that narrative, say what we want, thinking about global issues as well, bringing in investors from all places, but also ensuring that Africans, I'll give you an example. In every panel during African Energy Week, you have an African and a woman in it. It's not just about where I've gone to conferences where I've seen sometimes there will be no African on the panel, but you have people all from Europe discussing Africa. I don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right. We want African voices, whether from government, civil society, corporate, in every panel discussion. And I think we have given Africans a voice, a lot of smart people. We have women-focused events during African Energy Week. We have young people-focused events during African Energy Week because we understand our people and we're giving that. And also, we even have a concert. We have an Amapiano and Afrobeats concert. This year, we're going to be having, I don't know what, I'm an old man already. They got this one called Flavor. He's going to be there. Murder is going to be there. Uncle Waffles. And we had Spyro and the other guy that does Rush and Kenny the Entertainer, Mafiki Zolo. So we try to say, let Africans have some fun while discussing some big energy topics. Don't be boring. So I think it's going to be an exciting event. We're looking at about 10,000 people in Cape Town. We just found out that Prince Williams from the United Kingdom would actually be in town most African dignitaries are coming. The president of Brazil's office reached out yesterday. He's going to be speaking in there. So we've seen some good attraction from international community, but also across Africa. You're going to see some very, very strong leadership across Africa coming into Cape Town.
Wow, I feel like being there already. But our colleagues are going to be there on the ground, so we are also looking forward to this event.
You want to bam bam. You want to chill with the big
I
boys,
want to
yeah? It's okay. I feel you. I want to do the same. You know.
Thank you so much, sir. So we go to the final question on our list. I can see that our participants are already posting their questions and some are raising their hands. So you will have to just bear with us. You know, we are as a young generation of journalists, we are also eager to learn and also to play our part in this whole movement that's going on. So if you get bombarded or overwhelmed with our questions, you just have to bear. But I have no doubt you are able to handle. The final question: kindly provide an update on the preparations, the theme of the 2024 AEW, and why everyone should be part of it. I want to be part of it, but not because I want to boom boom and bim bam. I want to be part of it because I want this history to be made in my presence. I'm sure most of my colleagues here want the same. But it looks like some
Very true.
exciting activities lined up there, sir.
I think a lot of the activities during African Energy Week, we go from art, we go from finances, we go from driving most African energy ministers or national oil companies are going to be presenting a lot of opportunities for investment, which we think is key because we need to continue attracting investment, not just from internationally, but Pan-African wide. We also going to see a lot of discussions around climate change and energy poverty. We're going to see what role can Africa play with renewables. So that there is, I would really refer you to the program so I don't have to take all your time talking. But preparations have been well. You are seeing a world class African event, which has received accolades in most of the developed countries for the intense work. And I think when you put a team of Africans and you empower them, you'll be surprised by what these young Africans can do. They can do wonders. You just have to believe in them and empower them and drive them and always be ready to pick them up and say, keep going. And if they fail, pick them up and keep pushing. And I think I'm so proud of what these young Africans have done. And they have really unleashed a lot of their powers in doing something excellent. There's excellence in Africa. We just have to unleash it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure having this one-on-one engagement with us. We've exhausted our list of questions that have been prepared, and now we have our participants who are also eager to throw in some questions as a follow-up to the answers that we've got from you already. If you'd like to take a 1 minute break to drink some water, or we can just
No,
keep
go ahead.
firing.
Ask the question. Before.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Let's go to my friend Otidola from East Zone Africa. Um, you need to come and ask your question yourself. I'm not asking on your behalf. So if you're around Otidola, please unmute your mic and fire right away.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, sir. Thanks so much, sir. It's been a wonderful session with you, and we can't have it better than this. But my question, straight to my question. So why are we still playing victimhood? Because in your conversation, I heard you talking about Africa is a victim of the energy transition. So that conversation again, so for me, I've been following you over the years, and I understand you've always been advocating against it. But I heard that in your conversation just now. So it's not time for us to take up the challenge head on. That's the first question. Maybe I should ask all So, you mentioned Nigeria as the big boy in Africa, and from Nigeria, I think I'm impressed to hear that. But what's your assessment of the recent executive order and presidential directive to stimulate gas production in the deep water by the present administration? And what other actions do you believe President Bola Tinubu should take to stimulate gas production? So I think those are the two questions from me for now. Thank you so much, sir.
Otedola, I know you're really Nigerian because if they give you one chance, you like the guy selling at Onisha market. You say buy one get two free. You give the guy the
I
market and
was,
you go for it. I think I think Nigeria gas development and the decrease to encourage that is spot on. You need to do that. It should have been done 20 years ago, but they're doing it now. It's late, but not bad. They need to do it. But the deep offshore is very, very expensive. To drill a well deep water offshore, you're looking at 60 to 90 million dollars for one well, and you might not be successful. The the rate of success is about 10%. So it's highly risky. So you need to incentivize that and encourage companies to go there. But also the geology in Nigeria is very good. So they're able to do studies and see great potential. The other issue you have to look at is that you have to ask yourself in Nigeria, why are the companies moving deep offshore? There are some fundamental problems that have not been addressed in that country. And we just have to be very honest. Crude oil theft. A lot of Nigeria's oil production that could go to help its people, it's being stolen. You have to deal with that. You can't deal where you have 1/3 or maybe about 10 or 20% of the Nigeria's production is being stolen. And we've been complaining about crude oil theft forever. We never find a thief, but there's a thief that is stealing, but we can't find it. The entire government can't find the thief. The people can't find the thief, but the thief keeps stealing. And we don't even know the thief. It's like only Nigeria can that happen. I love that country so much, but they need to deal with crude oil theft. It's so important. But also the president today, I would urge him, with all due respect, that they need to move and fast track the implementation of the petroleum industry bill, petroleum industry act that was passed. It needs to be implemented fully and really driven. But also, you have a lot of deals, a lot of projects in Nigeria that are sitting in the table of bureaucrats that are not being approved. That is killing the country and the country's energy sector. It shouldn't take so long to approve a project than the time you need to build that project. When somebody has an amazing project that is going to really move forward the country, and unless a bureaucrat takes that project and keep in their offices for years, what happens? The person moves away. He goes somewhere else because you know what? You're not competing for global capital between Anambra and Lagos or Kano and Adamawa. No, you're competing for global capital with Guyana. That is receiving a lot of money with Namibia. So money goes where it's welcome. Money goes where it's welcome. You can't just be a giant. When you're a giant, you act like one. And I think Nigeria needs to act like a giant, and they need to deal with their above ground risk issues to encourage investors to come in.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to ask, but do you believe the Nigerian, the African Energy Bank station in Nigeria will play a significant role in this?
It will play a significant role. It's not a Nigerian bank, it's an African bank. This institution can only work in a way that we let it work. There have been a lot of good ideas in Africa. It's only successful how we let it work. So I think Nigeria hosting the African Energy Bank is a step in the right direction. We need to put in the money. There is $2.3 trillion of capital in Africa, private capital. Why are we putting our pension funds, our tax money, why are we saving those funds in Europe, in America, and they take your money and say, we're not going to finance energy for you? Why can't we put that money in an African energy bank to be able to develop Africa with its resources? That's what we need to ponder, because we're saving a lot of our money in countries that give us very low returns in the first place, but then say, we will not use your money to finance you. Why don't we turn that around? Put your money. We have qualified African fund managers that we can bring in world class. I really don't care who runs the African Energy Bank. We started advocating for it. We thank Apple and Afrexim for doing an amazing job in putting that together, bringing all the world-class people you can have, and really run a world-class institution and really be able to raise capital and fund African energy development. Energy is life. Energy comes from the Greek word energia, which means movement. When people move, then things happen. So we need to see if Africa is moving, Africa has energy, then we know we are there.
So much. I yield for now, sir. Thank
We have Michael. Michael, you're next. Please introduce yourself to our guest and then fire your question right away.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Ayuk. My name is Sam Wosu. I'm the editor, Environment Africa magazine, and thank you once again for your time. My question basically revolves around we have quite a number of advocacies, virulent ones really, against one, the African Energy Week, and two, ongoing infrastructure developments in the oil and gas industry, such as the East African and the West African gas pipelines. What's your take on this with regards to these advocacies and what they expect or what they are assuming to happen? And that would dovetail into my second question. I wanted to take them together, which is how can African governments and industry practitioners balance the disparate voices for and against the fossil fuel industry, especially with the drive towards greener, sustainable energy sources?
I think there is already a balance. Look at a country like Kenya. Kenya has more green energy in its energy system than the United States or many European countries. Senegal, it has about 30% green energy. No European country has that. So we need to be very careful. So let's not look at Africa as saying Africa is the one driving up the climate crisis. We are not. Our greenhouse gas emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions are still very, very low. But let me address the issue of climate activists saying shut down African Energy Week. Yesterday, we had a lot of the activists, hundreds of them, stormed at my office yesterday at the African Energy Chamber to protest an event that is going to happen next month, sponsored by European NGOs. So you fly from Europe to protest an African organization in Africa who wants to host a conference in Africa about its people. There is a London-based group that started on Monday to Friday. They are hosting a conference in Cape Town called Africa Oil Week. You are not protesting that. You are protesting a guy who believes that you should use oil, gas, solar, wind, hydrogen to fix our problems. We don't believe, we are not oil junkies. We believe that you use all kind of energies. But you're not protesting the one that says we are advocating for oil in Cape Town. I think there's a disparity in that. Sometimes there's confusion in the protest. But the issues that they raise around stop East Africa crude oil pipeline, the Ugandan people have every right. There is a sovereign nation. And as Ugandans, they decide that the crude oil pipeline is important for them. It's who is any one of us to go against the will of the Ugandan people and what they've decided is going to be good for their development? Norway just launched $18 billion in new energy, oil and gas projects, and they're going to build a pipeline from Norway to Germany. Why are we not stopping that? Why is it the one that Ugandans are building to help their people that has to be stopped? The West African gas pipeline, APCO, takes gas from Nigeria right into Ghana through Benin and Togo. One African country supporting another African country with gas. That's a problem. I don't believe in this notion that we have to be in perpetual poverty. No. I believe Africans need to be better. We have the energy. Look at where all the gas production is done in Africa, from Mozambique to Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Algeria. Do you know where that gas goes through? It goes to Europe and China. They're the ones using it. We are not using it. So you can't tell me that because the chamber says you need to use this in Africa, we need to really power our people. Do you know that if we use some of that gas, we can develop petrochemicals, urea, ammonia, NPK, fertilizer plants, and power ourselves and get agriculture and drive up jobs so our young people don't have to go across the Mediterranean to go look for jobs in Europe. They don't have to suffer crossing the Sahara. We need to think different. We need to. So if we don't think different, I mean, think about this. Ukraine, a country at war, is feeding Africa. Ukraine. We're getting all the wheat. If Ukraine wheat don't come, we don't have no bread in many countries. So if the price we pay for taking a position that Africa needs to develop, then it's fine. We're ready for that. But if you want to talk about climate, let the wealthy nations decarbonize. Let them stop using oil. Africa needs to industrialize. But you can't tell Africans that stay poor. Stay poor. I think it's fundamentally wrong. We need to be better than this. You fly with an airplane from Europe, come to South Africa. People who were paid. People were paid. They went to townships where people there are living in perpetual poverty. Got them out of townships, gave them $5 each, and say, "Go, we'll take you to Johannesburg. You would demonstrate, and after you do a protest, we'll give you food." The way you look at Black people, I think it's colonial in nature. So as somebody who used to protest a lot, this one passed me. I am shocked by it.
Thank you so very much. Over to you, Sana.
Thank you, sir. I think we're gonna allow our guest or we have to excuse him. We understand that he has other engagement and they're already waiting. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna ask the last question finally, and then ask Mr. Udeme to do the closing remarks, so we can allow our guests to leave us, take leave of us, and then we go ahead to do our wrap up. So the next question is from a journalist, Michael Obinemi. He has a series of questions, but I'm picking up this one because you can take only one now, sir. He says Africa holds around 13% of global gas reserves, which is now proving popular globally and paving the way for emerging exporters such as Senegal, Mauritania, Tanzania, Mozambique, and bringing several projects on stream. While mature markets like Nigeria, Angola, and Republic of Congo are putting more focus on gas production. Following this trend, what are Africa Energy Chamber's projections for the African gas market in 2025 and beyond? So this is the final question. We're going to allow him to go. As soon as he answers this question, we'll have a closing remarks and we will excuse him. We cannot hold him any more longer. Thank you, sir. Please, you can take the last question.
You like secrets. Like they are. I really want to answer that question, but honestly, I am being barred from it because we are releasing our state of the African energy report, which we just concluded. I promise your group, your team will be the first to have it. It's right now under strict editorial review. We have it together with Reichstad and Wood Mackenzie and IHS and OPEC. So we have a big, which we do it annually. But what I can tell you is that gas is going to be the future in Africa. There is going to be, there is so much gas that's going to be produced out of Namibia, out of even South Africa. But I also think that a lot of gas projects in Africa are being stopped or held back by bureaucracy. And we need to be able to unleash that they need to be enablers, not people that pick winners and losers. So I would have really appealed to you that even with my restrictions, you should please give us about 4 or 5 days. Once I have that, you would be it's world class. We always have at least 1 million downloads on our annual outlook, and we are releasing that on Monday next week. Please be patient. Let me give you something world class at the right time, so I don't say anything stupid right now, and that is out of order.
Okay, that's understood. In journalism, we know the embargo rules. It applies to us editorially. So what we will ask in return is that we get it at least 24 hours before with the embargo notice, so that, as you're releasing it, we are also publishing that. We don't want to be publishing stale news.
Deal.
So we're going to respect the embargo. Once it's in our email, we're going to get information, process it, but we'll publish it just as you're also publishing it, which will complement also your publication. So I think that will work for both of us.
I'll give it to you 24 hours before the Europeans have it. So before they say anything, you'll be first.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Mr. Udeme, one of our leading members. Udeme, Akpan, if you're on, you can come on to do the closing remarks and thanking our more like a vote of thanks.
Yes. Please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear
Please
you.
confirm you can hear me. Yes.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. On behalf of AJERAP, it is indeed my pleasure and privilege to very sincerely thank Mr. Ayuk for making time out of no time to be here. We can understand the fact that we are counting down to this most important event, the #1 event in the world. And out of no time, he has made out the time to be with us. It speaks volumes. We appreciate it, sir. Thank you for all the insights you have given, the knowledge you have shared. As we have made it clear in the past, AJERAP is your partner. We will always be there for you in sun and in rain at all times. You can count on AJERAP as a partner. We came into being to occupy the space because there was a huge void in the African space. There was a vacuum because we didn't have a well-informed energy press that can take up the conversation and articulate it and put it across to the readers and viewers in the electronic, in print, in the digital media and social media in a way that the industry can understand. In fact, as I speak, most journalists in Africa are still ignorant about the energy space. They still see it as very technical and they cannot communicate. This is a major hindrance, and everyone needs to be carried along. If the desired impact you are doing and you are creating needs to be communicated properly. So it's as a result of this that we are coming to existence. We will most respectfully want to invite you to a capacity building program scheduled sometime in May, June in Banjul, the Gambia. We are mobilizing support for that event, and we will ensure we mobilize all our colleagues Africa-wide to be present for that training. It is after rising from that training that we can be sure we have a huge and in control of people that can be able to assist in communicating issues about the just energy transition and what most stakeholders stand for, including yourself. Okay, so we intend to this and a lot more to be able to complement the void, because the Western worlds have taken over in their own press. They have been the one bombarding the continent with all kinds of distortions. So we will be doing our own from African perspective, and you're sure this will enhance our development. Thank you so much. Thank you for our great participants and all attendees that have made this possible. We are indeed grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and count on our support on the capacity building. Send us information ahead of time. We will be there. We will support it. We fully endorse and appreciate the message of what you do.
Hello.
Consider our support. Thank you.
Thank you. So our guests today discuss various issues. Among them is, of course, the key message centered around the Africa Energy Week, but also looking at other issues surrounding the thorny debate of Africa's energy transition. Well, not Africa energy transition, but global energy transition, and how Africa plays in this mix, and how other elements outside of the continent are doing everything to undermine the potentials of Africa, gas and petroleum potentials, in the name of energy transition to greenhouse, to greener sources of energy. He also talked about investment outreach of his firm to Asia, to Russia, the Middle East, and North America. Also discussed the markets and investment opportunities available in Africa right now, among other host of issues. Of course, also looking at he also looked at global finances and investors and how they could have some certain stakes in most of these potential projects that are coming up in Africa. And then the challenges that are being faced, from red tape bureaucratic tendencies that are serving mostly as obstacles to progress in Africa. Complementing or supporting these initiatives that are helping to empower Africa economically and also socially. So there are a lot of other issues that have been asked during the question and answer session. Of course, pertinent among them is the matter of the projections of Africa gas market in 2025, among other things. So we are very grateful for having him here, sharing his knowledge, his expertise, and also speaking to us extensively about the Africa Energy Week. We've come to the end of the session. I am your host, Mr. Sana Kamara, speaking from Banjul. We'd like to thank everybody who has been on this call and ask all of you to continue following our engagement with industry leaders across the continent, and also look forward to more membership on AJERAP. You can contact us either by WhatsApp or by email. Follow us on our social media platforms, which have gone live this week. We already have a website that is functional, AJERAP.com, and also we have other new innovations that are coming in. So stay tuned. So that's it. We'll thank everyone for their presence, and we hope to continue with this engagement in the next session of one-on-one engagement with AJERAP. Thank you, everyone, for your time.